The city of San Francisco shimmered like a jewel against the Pacific coast. The Golden Gate Bridge stretched proudly across the bay, its fiery orange towers piercing the fog that often rolled in from the ocean. Cable cars rattled along steep streets, lights glittered on the water, and the city's heartbeat pulsed with an energy that could make even strangers feel like dreamers. Among the thousands who walked those streets each day, two people were about to collide in a way that felt less like chance and more like something destined by the stars. At 24, Emma Carter had just completed her master's degree in astrophysics at San Francisco State University. While her classmates sought positions in prestigious research labs, Emma found herself drawn to the Morrison Planetarium inside the California Academy of Sciences. It wasn't glamorous work, setting up shows for curious visitors and school groups, but she loved the dome filled with constellations. Standing beneath it was the closest she could get to the universe she had studied for so long. Every star felt like a friend, every constellation like a chapter in a story only she could read. But dreams rarely paid rent in San Francisco. Between late-night shifts, rising bills, and the pressure of making something of her degree, Emma wondered if she had made the right choices. Still, something deep within told her to hold on, to trust that her love for the stars would lead her somewhere meaningful. She just didn't know how soon that path would reveal itself. One crisp autumn evening, Emma prepared for the last planetarium show of the day. The dome ceiling came alive with 1,000 pinpricks of light as she calibrated the projector. To most people, it was just a program. To her, it was a canvas of infinite beauty. "Excuse me," a voice said gently, breaking her focus. Emma turned, startled, to find a tall young man standing near the back row. His dark brown hair was tousled from the wind outside, and his green eyes carried a mix of curiosity and warmth. He held a worn notebook in one hand. "Sorry to bother you," he continued. "The staff said I could wait in here before the show started." Emma managed a small smile. "Of course. You're just a little early." He stepped closer, extending his hand. "I'm Ryan Mitchell." "Emma," she replied, shaking it lightly. When the show began, Ryan sat quietly among the small crowd, but Emma could feel his attention fixed on more than just the constellations. His gaze lingered on her as she narrated, her voice carrying the stories of Orion, Cassiopeia, and Pegasus. It made her cheeks warm, though she tried to ignore it. After the show, as visitors filed out, Ryan stayed behind. "That was beautiful," he said softly. "You didn't just explain the stars, you gave them life." Emma blushed and used to praise. "Thank you. I guess I've always seen stories in them." Ryan lifted his notebook slightly. "Me too. I'm a writer, well trying to be. I've been working on a novel, and the stars find their way into almost every page." That night, as they parted, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another visitor. It was as if the universe itself had introduced them. Over the weeks that followed, Ryan returned often to the planetarium. Sometimes he came to watch the shows, sometimes just to sit quietly and scribble in his notebook. Eventually, Emma teased him, asking if he was there for the stars or for her. He had grinned and said, "Maybe both." Ryan had moved to San Francisco from Seattle a year earlier, chasing his dream of finishing a novel. To pay the bills, he worked part-time at a bookstore in the Mission District. His apartment was small and drafty, his future uncertain, but he believed stories were worth the sacrifice. As their friendship grew, Emma and Ryan discovered they shared more than an interest in the stars. They both loved late-night coffee shops, strolling through hidden corners of the city, and watching the bay lights twinkle from the pier. But what bound them most was a shared belief that life was not random, that moments had meaning, and that sometimes destiny had a hand in guiding hearts together. One evening, sitting on a blanket in Golden Gate Park under the open sky, Ryan asked, "Do you ever think some people are meant to meet? Like, no matter where we are, the universe makes sure it happens." Emma tilted her head back, gazing at the constellations. Her heart skipped. "Yes, I think some things are destined. Written in the stars, maybe." But as their bond deepened into love, challenges began to stir. Emma's parents in Chicago urged her to return home for a research position at a university, something stable and secure. Ryan, meanwhile, was offered an editorial opportunity in New York with a small publishing house that had noticed his manuscript. Both offers were golden chances, yet both would tear them apart. On a rainy night at a cafe near Union Square, Emma stirred her coffee, her voice trembling. "If you take the offer in New York, what happens to us?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "And if you go back to Chicago?" "I don't want to hold you back, Emma. But I don't want to lose you either. The silence between them grew heavy, their hearts caught between love and dreams. Finally, Emma whispered, maybe love isn't enough right now. Ryan reached across the table, squeezing her hand. His voice cracked. Then promise me this isn't the end. Just not the right time. The following weeks pulled them apart. Emma left for Chicago, diving into research work that consumed her days. Ryan moved to New York, pouring himself into finishing his book. They stayed in touch, but the distance stretched thin. Slowly, calls grew shorter, messages fewer, and silence heavier. Both buried themselves in work, but their hearts carried the ache of something unfinished. A year later, Ryan's novel was published. It told the story of a girl who saw stories in the stars and a writer who believed in destiny. When asked in an interview who inspired the book, Ryan simply said, "Someone who showed me that the universe always connects us to the people we're meant to meet." Emma stumbled upon the interview by chance. Sitting alone in her Chicago apartment, tears streamed down her face. She realized she could keep chasing stars, but none of it mattered if she didn't follow the one thing her heart longed for. Weeks later, Ryan was at a book signing event back in San Francisco, greeting readers with practiced smiles. He hadn't expected her, hadn't dared to hope. But then, through the crowd, he saw her. Emma stood there holding a copy of his book against her chest, her eyes brimming with tears. For a moment, the noise of the room faded. Ryan's voice broke as he whispered, "Emma." She stepped forward, her voice trembling. "You wrote about me." His hands shook as he reached for her. "I never stopped." In that instant, the city melted away. They weren't in a bookstore anymore. They were back under the stars where it had all begun. Emma decided to return to San Francisco, taking a position at a science museum where she could share her love of astronomy with young students. Ryan continued writing, his second book already in progress. Together, they built a life woven with starlit rooftops, midnight walks along the bay, and the certainty that love could survive even the greatest distances. One evening, as they sat on their balcony overlooking the city, the stars shimmered above them. Emma leaned against Ryan, her voice soft. "Do you think this was fate?" He kissed her forehead gently.